This is a good one. Someone said that they wish they would have known that people will play on your weaknesses and kind heart and learn to be firm and direct. Welcome back to another episode of Wealth Within Reach, and I have a really good one for you guys today. Okay, I want to specifically talk to the folks out there who already own real estate investments. Okay, so some of you guys may feel like, oh, I wouldn't categorize myself as a real estate investor, but you are a landlord. If that is you, then this is absolutely for you. If it's not for you, this is for you to learn about for the future. Okay. So in my experience, there are two types of people that become real estate investors. One, you have your accidental investor, okay? So these are people who maybe you own a house and all of a sudden maybe you have to move to another city or another state, and instead of you selling your home, you convert your primary home into a rental, all right? Also, other people that fall into this category may be in a situation where maybe you bought your first home when you were single, and then you later got married or something like that, and then you bought your next house with your partner. Now you decided to keep your primary home and you then convert that into a rental. I call you an accidental investor. Sometimes people may not actually realize that, yes, you are a real estate investor and you are a landlord and you are running a business too. Okay. And so we also have the person who is an intentional investor. This is the person who has purposely decided to invest in real estate. Okay. Whether it's your first home or your second or third or fourth home, you have intentionally decided that I want to begin building wealth through real estate. Okay. So we have those two different types of folks. Okay. So I'm going to be talking to both of you today. The point of this conversation, this episode, is to talk about all the things that I wish I would have known before when I got started. Not only me, but also you, other investors like you. I polled my audience and said, what are a few things that you wish you would have known when you got started? And I want to help you guys begin navigating through that today. Okay, so let's jump into it. So here's a question I have. It says, I wish I would have known how to run my numbers accurately and properly estimate cost. This level of ignorance has caused me to subsidize 2 mortgages on my rental properties and pay out of pocket those expenses for several years. To summarize it, what this investor wished they would have known was they wish they would have known how to accurately calculate their cash flow before they bought the property. We talk about this all the time. Real estate investing is not just sexy, guys. You are, in a sense, you are risking thousands and thousands of dollars in order to build wealth, in order to create financial options for yourself. This is not something that you should be taking lightly, okay? Going into it as an amateur and not understanding, one, what are my mortgage costs? What are the expenses associated with me running this property, being a landlord? Am I responsible for utilities? Am I responsible for these XYZ, these things, costs, so that you know how much you need to charge your potential tenant in rent? On the front end, this will help you to determine if this property is actually a good deal or not before you even place an offer. I've worked with so many different clients who come to me after they've bought their first, second, or maybe even third property, and they realize for some reason, I'm not making money. What am I doing wrong? Can you relate to that? And they come to me, and then we dive deeper into the numbers, because your financials aren't just what is reflected in your bank account. Your financials are actually what is left over after your profit and all of your expenses, okay? And so understanding that on the front end really does help that investment to actually turn from being an asset to being a liability, okay? It becomes a liability when it's costing you money. And if you don't understand how to calculate your expenses, how to actually properly determine what the potential rental income is, how much money you can make on Airbnb, all these really important things on the front end, it could really cost you big time on the back end. Another, what I wish I would have known before I got into real estate is, in the beginning, the cash flow doesn't always feel worth it. But the appreciation in the multiple properties over time, it starts to feel worth it. Let me tell y'all, you are not going to reach financial freedom by buying one real estate property, okay? It is a lot of times, it will take multiple rental properties to be able to achieve financial freedom. We all have different ways of getting to financial freedom. Some people, they want to buy a few properties and they want to pay them down as quickly as possible. And they want to have a few properties that are paid off. And that's financial freedom for some people. Some people, they want to have multiple properties and make a small amount of money off each property. And then that leads to them creating financial freedom for themselves. It's important to work with someone who understands, the challenges that you face and that can help you come up to figure out what option is best for you. But all that to say, real estate is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And it does take a strategy, an intentionality, and perseverance to continue to move forward and making money, okay? Just because you do one deal and it doesn't work out how you thought it was gonna work out, that doesn't mean that you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, okay? It may be an opportunity for you to make a couple tweaks and be able to figure out how I can go back and do it again and make it work best for me. All right, so that's a really good point. Another one is, you have to know that no one cares about your property as much as you do, especially your tenants and your property managers. This is very much the truth, okay? Sometimes we think that, I've seen different situations. I know I've seen people who they get into the situation and they get a tenant and they like completely hands off. I've had clients who have not even driven past their property before in real life. They bought the property online, they close online, they keep it moving, right? And then they look up 5 years from now and they get ready to sell their property and it's in disrepair because they did not have a asset management plan in place, right? So you have property managers who help to manage your tenants, but you also have to take care of the asset, which is the property, which is what I call asset management. Also, I have people who get into situations where they self-manage and they choose the wrong tenants. They simply do not choose the right tenants. And they choose tenants who tear up their property. They may not have proper systems in place to make sure they have inspections to ensure that their property has been taken care of. And they really sometimes have unrealistic expectations for the tenant versus them actually taking care of that themselves as a property owner. And I think that that's important to, one, go into this relationship with the tenant with a sober mind that at the end of the day, you're the owner of the property. And whether you take care of it or your property management takes care of it, there needs to be a plan in place in order to actually manage your asset, not just collect income. Okay, guys, did you hear the news? I am giving away a fully turnkey house. Yes, you heard that correct. I am giving away a fully renovated house at the Owning It and Living It experience. You gotta be in the room though to win the house. It is November 1st through 3rd at the Intercontinental Hotel in Buckhead. Go to experience.owningitandlivingit.com to grab your ticket today before the prices go up. I'll see you in November. This is a good one. Someone said that they wish they would have known that people will play on your weaknesses and kind heart and learn to be firm and direct. This is really important, especially when it comes to renting to family. That could be really, really difficult. I personally feel like, because I have been in a situation where I have worked with family, I've rented to family, and I've had some really good situations and I've had some really bad situations that I don't want to be in. And again, and one of the things I figured out with the situations that happen really, really good, on the front end, one, the expectations were communicated on the front end, and we considered the end in mind in the beginning. So we talk about the worst case scenario. If this does not work out, what is a worst case scenario that can happen, and how can we talk about that on the front end? Also, a lesson that I've learned with working with family or, working with friends is when people have a hard time having hard conversations in their normal life, then that tends to trickle over to business as well. So I personally, it's important to me whenever I am doing business with family or renting with family, I look at how that family member handles things in their personal life. Are they afraid to have hard conversations? Or do they pursue hard conversations? Do they take care of the basic things that they have in their own personal livelihood? And that is a lot of times a reflection of how they will take care of your property or how they will interact with you if you do business with them or if you rent to them. And that's important to consider on the front end. And then lastly, it's much easier to be professional and firm up front and then become a little bit easier over time than it is to do the opposite. Okay. If you come in just, being all nice and lax, you could be nice, but being all like free and yeah, sure, you could do that, whatever, like being laxy daisy, it's going to be really hard to be turned around and be strict. People may have a hard time really taking you seriously on the back end versus you setting the tone and being that way up front, doing what you say you're going to do, showing up and keeping your word, and then beginning to ease out on the end. I think that that's much better to help you overcome that situation versus the opposite. One of the things that someone said that they wish they would have known about being a real estate investor on the front end is nothing is passive, okay? It is not a 9 to 5 by any means, but real estate investing is not passive. And that is completely true. Okay. There are some types of investing, like if you invest in a syndication, that could be passive, but it still involves something of you, right? Is it where I have to clock in 9 to 5 and it requires over 5 hours of my time per week? No, it doesn't, right? But is it where sometimes a tree falls on a house and I have to wake up in the middle of the night and catch a flight to go and check on and see what's going on? Yes, that absolutely happens, even with having a contractor or a team in place. Okay. So no, real estate is not completely passive. At times it does require more of you than other times. So I think that is important to understand. And the better you can set up your business and create systems, the easier it does become. But let me tell you, it's much better than a 9 to 5. It's much better for me than a 9 to 5. There is definitely securities that 9 to 5s bring, but I'm really happy that I invest in real estate. But I don't want you to think that it's passive, because it's not. Another thing that I wish I would have known when I got started is that, man, when you choosing contractors, okay, contractors are one of the hardest part about real estate investing. Hands down, always, consistently, you will hear me always talking about that. So what I wish I would have known is, before choosing a contractor and deciding to move forward with them and working with them to do this huge renovation on this huge flip that I just bought, instead, I would work with them and start small. What is a small project that you can have them do to try out, to figure out, do they actually, show up on time? Do they stay under budget? What type of quality of work do they have? Is there a small project that you can start off with them with? Give them an opportunity to prove yourself and then earn more work from you in the future by proving that they could handle the small renovation project that you work with them in the beginning. These are some of the things that I wish I would have known when I got started. And so this is why it's really, really important to not DIY real estate investing on your own. A lot of us, We are just entering this space of trying to grow our wealth. And I really encourage you to surround yourself with a group of people who are doing it too, because I want you to learn from my experience versus having to go through all of it on your own like I did. This is why the Owning It and Living It community is here, so that you can be amongst other like-minded people to learn from them instead of having to learn the hard way by trying to do it on your own. All right, so I want to hear from you now. What is one thing that you wish you would have done when you got started? And if you haven't started yet, but you really connected with some of these scenarios I said today, let me know in the comments what connected with you the most, okay? Again, thanks so much for listening to another episode of Wealth Within Reach. If you love this episode, share this with a friend. Be sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss another future episode. And yeah, go ahead and give me a rating too. Let me know how you like this episode. I look forward to connecting with you in the private Facebook group. I'll see you soon.